Almost 6,000 years ago, our forefathers or ancestors or distant relatives, you know what? All living organisms on Earth are said to be related. Anyways, their brains set out on a journey to find out more about which organ had made them curious about this in the first place. Welcome to this three-part series where we discuss the history and the anatomy of the brain and later talk about the tricky subject of consciousness. Research about the brain has dated all the way back to 4000 BC, where Mesopotamian and Sumerian records show that studies on neuroscience were conducted. Let's begin this by talking about Hippocrates, as he lived in an era where a lot of questions about the brain were asked. Philosophers and thinkers who lived in his era of 400 to 600 BC speculated that the composition of blood was directly correlated to intelligence. But we know that's wrong, obviously. But did you know that the blood is actually a tissue? It's a connective tissue. Anyways, Hippocrates was a Greek philosopher and he wrote about diseases related to brains. One of his essays were written on the sacred disease or epilepsies. Here he believed that the brain was responsible for all emotions, thoughts, etc. and the heart wasn't involved in any way. He also believed that the disease plagued the mind, not the heart. A link to this essay is there in the description below. Well, in contrast to Hippocrates, Aristotle, who was another philosopher, had some very different and wrong ideas. He had reason to believe that the brain was a coolant organ and was situated near the eyes because of its watery fluid-like nature. Aristotle believed that the brain had very thin blood vessels, which cooled easily. Poor Aristotle should have realized that a coolant system like this would be very inefficient. Moving on a few hundred years, Galen was the next big thinker who studied the brain. His ideas too were scientifically sound, as he believed that the brain was responsible for all thought. Leonardo da Vinci too decided to work on the brain. Many scientists who lived in the Renaissance period thought about the brain. I guess the brain was really fascinated with itself. In 1660, Thomas Willis made some important discoveries related to blood circulation. I'll end the video here. Even though we know a lot about the brain, research on neuroscience is still being conducted. It's amazing how at one point our brain didn't even know it was thinking, but it soon embarked on a journey to find out about itself. Imagine, there was actually a time where the brain, which is an organ, didn't even know anything about the body it resided in. Science really is beautiful. Stay tuned for the next episode. All the sources are linked in the description below.